Go on.
I was going to say, I'm going to ruin our credibility now by talking about Metallica.
Oh no!
Mm-hmm.
Is that what this one's going to be about?
Yep.
I was just going to say that like naming these episodes has become like a real problem because I'm actually laughing at what we're calling them, and they're really fucking bad. So I'm looking forward to finding out what the plan is on this one. Like, what kind of... We're going to have to find out what the second topic is to go with Metallica.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll just, like, spend half the episode talking about, like, the Bugatti Devo so that we can have metallic car.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, smart.
Cars.
Like, intellectual humour. Am I right?
Yep.
What's up, bro?
Hey, man.
How's it going?
It's good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. So, I'm Mike this time.
This time. Yeah, you're finally you. How does it feel?
Really refreshing, honestly. Just like that Fanta from the other time.
You had a Fanta?
I had a Fanta.
Where'd you get it from?
Shop.
Where did you first try it?
Different shop.
Where was the different shop?
At the other side of the planet.
Oh yeah, have you been to the other side of the
I
planet?
have been to the other side of the planet.
Cool. Where did you go?
Far away.
Oh. Really trying, huh?
Yeah. It reminds me of that conversation we had the other day by text about Updog.
What's that?
It is... I can't do this. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the, honestly, the most socially awkward podcast on the planet.
Yep.
We still without a jingle? You're not making my jingle yet?
Not yet.
No, that's bad.
Soon, though.
That's good.
You bust out my Casio.
It'd be amazing. That rustic feel, you know, people like, are we talking like old school, like kids?
Yeah. So rather than it being like an actual soundbite, I want it to just be me in front of the microphone pressing.
Bang! We could just go upstairs and just do that now. We
should.
just discover it as we go.
shouldn't.
We'll like mix that with the ANIMUS from before, and we're going to be laughing. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Mike and John on your Sunday afternoon vibes, and welcome back to Animus. What do you want to talk about this week?
Well, I said I was going to talk about Metallica, but not in a conventional sense. Not in like a, oh my god, he's got long hair and a beard. Of course he wants to talk about Metallica.
Yeah, but you do though.
But I don't. I'm not. Okay, so the reason I want to talk about it is because last week we talked about being yourself and not being ashamed of kind of showing your true colours. Is that the right kind of showing your kind of the truest side of you?
I love the fact that in itself is a huge statement, and we're talking about whether or not you listen to pop music as well.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So we talked about kind of not getting stuck in like I want to sound, or I want to be like this artist, so I will
just ingest that. Yeah.
And the reason I want to cover Metallica is because although they're a hugely controversial band and very few people in our scene probably care about them, shock horror. So they started as a kind of thrash band, fast guitar solos, drums, blah blah blah. Did that for like 4 albums, and then they took a kind of like a left turn and did the Black Album, which everyone threw their toys out about because it was like, oh my god, they got like, you know, there's like ballads on there, and they're like they've sold out. Yeah. And yet to this day, the Black Album I think is still like one of the fewest like consistently high selling albums. And then every album kind of since then has just been different from the last. And usually when that happens with an artist, it can kind of go one or two ways. You can either smash it, so like Bring Me for instance, like they've kind of followed that path where like almost every single album has been different from the last, and that's worked for them because with every change they've kind of grown. Or you can kind of bomb out, which happens a lot. Heavy bands will add clean vocals. Pop artists will kind of follow trends and maybe pick up on sounds that are kind of in, and it just won't work. Yeah,
I mean, like again, we mentioned, I can't remember if it was last time before, we mentioned Busted, and they sort of had this sort of, I'm gonna call it a funny turn, where they picked up a bit of the Don Broco sound and aesthetic, which for us is really weird because they're a local band, so
Don Broco are local to us.
Yeah, it's weird to have a local band that are talked about on that bigger platform, especially when a band that was one that certainly I latched onto so strongly as a kid, to then be drawing influences from Club Sex from down the road. It's just really, just so that makes sense. Like, people are like, where's Club Sex? That sounds nice. Summerfall, Club Sex, Don Broco, it's the same thing. Palisades in the metal scene like went fucking hard on this dubstep sound, which I mean, I'm a bad person, I quite enjoyed it, but just absolutely destroyed their credibility. So yeah, like, following sounds can be a bad thing, very bad thing. Bring Me, I think you could almost accuse of, so I'm gonna draw on something that Migueli said a few times, where Bring Me sounds very, very fresh to the metal scene, but actually if you draw parallels with the contemporary pop scene, that freshness isn't necessarily as straight from the tree as we believe. I'm trying to think of some kind of freshness.
Unique?
Yeah, it's just
new.
Yeah, it's just
it's been done.
It's been done. Yeah. I think that's the thing. And like, for me, I enjoyed Ammo for sure, but I appreciate the fact that they might not be breaking as much new ground as some people may have you believe.
Nicely done.
Thank you. I'm trying to be diplomatic. I fucking loved it, but I appreciate the fact that what is new for them isn't necessarily new for this planet.
Yeah. But I think it's just because, how can I describe it? So what every step that Bring Me has taken has then been, I guess, kind of cannibalized by the scene.
Yeah, for sure.
So everything they've done, every sort of left turn they've taken, you've immediately seen it happen with other bands.
Yeah.
Whether it's through image, whether it's through artwork, whether it's through sound itself, every band kind of copied them. And you saw it when they did Ammo. Like, the amount of bands that just like, oh well, I guess we just aim for arenas now.
We're just gonna do that.
Let's get a keyboardist and let's dress in kind of fashionable clothes and let's aim for the big festival headline slots.
Yeah.
And kind of going back to my Metallica point, every album they've put out has sounded different from the last, and they've never gone back to that original sound of like the first 3 or 4 albums, and every sound has been different. And they've done some random stuff, like sonically. Mm-hmm. They've done some really experimental stuff. Obviously they did Sent Anger, which is kind of a meme in itself. Ting, yeah, which is a meme in itself, but it's still, I think that was it was their first album in like 5 years, and then it took another like 5, maybe 6 years for them to put another album out. And yet Metallica's popularity never went away. And then they did, can't remember what it's called, Lulu, I think the album was called, with Lou Reed. Lou Reed from I want to say the Velvet Underground. Please stop me if there's any actual music fans out there.
I really can't help you.
Yeah, Lou Reed, very, very experimental, very kind of avant-garde musician. And the album was exactly that. It was a bunch of dudes with guitars and drums jamming with an avant-garde experimental musician, and commercially and sonically it made no sense. Mm-hmm. And it was panned, and I think Lou Reed took a bit of a hit from the kind of feedback I've heard. I don't think he really has ever experienced the vitriol that the kind of metal community can spout, and it is horrible. Someone puts their artwork out there, and whether you like it or not, you don't need to be a dick, but sadly in our community people are. Sorry guys, love you all. But like, everyone knows that, how passionate like alternative music fans are. Like,
it is, that in itself is, we could talk for half an hour easily about, venom's a really good word for it, because it is fucking poisonous sometimes. And I think that's the thing that people forget. I think on both sides of the table, I was going to say, people forget that this is people's art that they're tearing apart, and this is their passion, and this is what they put together. But also, it's fair to say that actually people forget that the music they're putting out is supposed to be their art and their passion. Yeah. And sometimes people are just like, it's difficult to say that people are like chasing that dollar when it comes to the metal scene, because the dollar is elsewhere, but there's still money to be made. When you're very clearly, hate the phrase selling out, because the second you sell an EP or an album, you're selling something. But I think when you're very clearly not in it creatively, then people can tell. But yeah, it's like this. The scene can be nasty. I'm gonna let you carry on, but it's
good. So obviously they put out Sent Anger and Lulu. I think only with like one album between, which for most bands would just tank. Like, there's no way you could put out 2 albums that close to each other and still be at the top of your game. Like any bands that put bad albums out will just, the size of the venues they play will drop, the labels will probably drop them. You see it all the time. Machine Head is a perfect example. They put out 2 really heavy albums. Then nu metal came in. They put out a kind of rap rock album. It did okay. Then they put out another one. It was garbage. Their label dropped them.
Yep.
But with Metallica, everything they do is just like no one sees it coming, and they are still the biggest band on this planet. Like, you look at the physical sales for the Black Album, like today, and they still sell more than albums that have come out this year. Like, it's unreal. And they just finished a stadium tour, or they're like just in the middle of a stadium tour at the moment, like a stadium tour, despite the fact they put out 2 what most people would consider commercial flops.
Yep.
And I think it's just a testament to just sticking to your guns. I feel like if they'd put out Sananga and it had kind of bombed, and then they'd just be like, let's just call it a day, or they'd, I don't know, maybe like, okay, let's just re-record like the first few albums and let's put out our greatest hits or something. I really feel like their fan base would be like, that's kind of garbage. That's not the Metallica we know. Like, people get passionate about the albums they don't like, but I definitely feel like sticking to your guns is the best thing you can kind of do for longevity.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing just to talk about Metallica. And I promise I'm not talking about it because I'm a Grebo. I actually don't listen to Metallica that much, and I definitely wouldn't consider them an influence. But
just for regional translation as well, Grebos, Moshers, Grungers, that's the same thing. That's
that one. Yeah. Goths,
yeah.
They've never put out a greatest hits, and I love that, because a band of that size and a band of that kind of like legacy could easily just lean on let's just stick out a greatest hits, but they've never done it, and yet are still the biggest band on the planet. And I just think that shows that anyone can you really can kind of just create your own art however you want to make it, and there will be an audience. Yeah. Especially now in 2019, like, people talk about how difficult it is to be in a band, but I feel like it's never been easier to be a creative and to be a successful creative, because there is such a broad reach, and it's the ease of access is it's just ridiculous.
In terms of the tools as well, like if we talk more broadly, like even this that we're doing right now, we decided, hey, I want to put a podcast out. When podcasts were born, it was never this easy. And prior to that, you're like, it's almost like, hey, I want to have a talk show. That's not going to fucking happen. That's not going to happen. That's the way it was perceived. Now we're in 2019. Like, we can sit down and we just be like, hey, want to do this? Yeah, let's do this. If I want to sit down and create some art, I can't draw, and yet I'm like considered to be somebody who creates these things. I've done like the EP covers. I taught Photoshop for a few years, and that's it, is the fact that the tool's there. It's no longer a limitation in terms of what you believe you can and can't do. You can sit down and you can try. You can make video, you can make images, you can make music, you can make just spoken word pieces. You can do whatever the fuck you want. That's the cool thing with now. And yes, okay, it's a saturated market, every market's saturated, but there's always going to be a calling for more art. So you can just there is an audience that already exists. You just have to draw their attention to you. Yeah, I feel like this is like a callback to the very beginning, but like, if you want to do something, there's never been a better time. That's strong tone. Yes, serious tone.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of going back to my kind of reasons for not wanting to do this podcast. Was 3 or 4 years ago, the podcast market was still pretty busy, still pretty busy, and has done nothing but grow since then. And at the time, my kind of thoughts were, I guess, quite internally egocentric, where I was like, there's loads of podcasts out there, no one will listen to it, it won't be very good, kind of worrying, just, what will people think? And now the podcast market is even more busy, and we've got so many friends that have started podcasts, even recently. And I guess in my mind, every time Mikey has quite passionately pitched this to me, I've thought, what will those people think? Will they be like, oh man, I've just started a podcast, why are these guys doing it? But then, and I think I said this to Mikey originally, we started a band. Mm-hmm. We started a band like 100 years after like contemporary music started, and no one was like, why are you starting a rock band?
That's my thing.
Yeah, like, blockbuster movies going to the cinema every single day. No one's like looking at directors like, what a copycat. Like, albums get put out every single day, art gets painted, like a beach scene probably gets watercolored every single day, and no one's throwing their toys out like, oh, that's been done before.
Yeah, I think even if we set out to mimic what somebody else is doing, it would be impossible. You could never be that person. I think what would be quite cool is sort of these other people that we know that are doing podcasts and stuff. I really like the idea of sort of, if we are working in the same space, instead of it being, why have you done that? We're doing that. It would be an opportunity to kind of have that big Marvel cinematic crossover. Yes. Just like, oh my god, they're working together. Like, that's, to me, that's where the cool shit lies. It's the same with the music scene that we are in. Yeah, we've highlighted some of the negative stuff, but we wouldn't be here if it was negative. Like, if it was the case that actually making music's fucking horrible and everyone's evil, etc., 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 we just wouldn't fucking do it. There's so much camaraderie and there's so much of this sort of shared experience where it doesn't matter what gigs you're playing, doesn't matter where you're playing, doesn't matter the size of it, you kind of get it. You already have some common ground. That's what I love about being creative, is not just expressing the shit that's floating around in my head, but also be able to see what other people are doing and having that kind of that pre-made dialogue ready, so you can be like, hey, I get you to a certain degree, you kind of know what I'm about, let's talk about that and let's explore that and hopefully get better at the shit that we do through each other. Hope that made sense.
Yeah, and you will always be you. It doesn't matter how much in any medium you wear your influences on your sleeve. Like, whether you're a new director and all you do is watch Quentin Tarantino films, like, the films will still look like you, even if it's in the smallest way. And even if we were to, I don't know, start a band and we were to use the same gear and the same producers and the same studio and write exactly the same kind of music as a band that we loved, it would still sound like us.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as we'd like, but it would still sound like us. And likewise, we could start a podcast that was about stamp collecting, and we could get into the stamp collecting podcast niche, and there's probably one other dude out there that does it, but it would still be us doing it.
Yeah, but that other dude that's sort of where things get tricky, is that other dude might be like, welcome to the community, or he might be like, motherfucker, this is my space. And I really hope that the people that we bump into through this will be the people who are excited for us and would like to share the experience, I suppose, rather than sort of aggressively just feel like we're in it for their market, which isn't the case at all. I don't even know if we're going to have a market. It might just be us playing this back in 10 years.
Yeah, maybe.
But
as long as the crossover is more Avengers than Justice League.
Yeah. We've kind of done that thing that we said we weren't going to do again.
Yeah, well, we're musicians, aren't we? So it's going to happen.
I'm not. I shout.
Yeah.
It's quite weird, sort of hanging out with all these musically talented people, and I turn up at the end and yell on it. It's the life of a metal vocalist is. Yeah, the more I think about it, actually, the more upsetting that is. I really am that guy who turns up and just like, oh, you've made something really beautiful there.
It's good though. There's a market for that, like a whole scene.
Yeah, like I'm not going to spend any time in this segment, but I'm just going to say it out loud. But the whole reason that I became a metal vocalist was because I was not musically talented and I could not sing, and I wanted to be a part of it, and this is all I could do. But there's a quote from T-Pain which I just absolutely loved when it was asked. I'm going to have to paraphrase it because there's words in there that I can't use. But when asked why he uses the auto-tune, the vocoder, is it vocoder that he uses or
some kind of auto-tune?
Melodyning, product naming.
I don't think it's melodyne. I think it's I don't know. It's more like auto-tune than it is pitch correction.
Okay. Thanks, bro. It's good to have you. This is my point. I don't know music stuff. But when he was asked, he was just like, because I can't sing. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. And that's usually the way I feel about my role in music, is like, yeah, I do what I do because I'm not really ready for the difficult stuff. But the intention was not for this to be a music podcast. So I want to talk about some not music stuff.
Yeah.
So next weekend, locally for us, is the NICE convention. One NICE convention, Brew.
I've heard it's nice.
Yeah. I'm gonna need you to give me some of the details, because I've not been to the NICE convention for a while now. Last time I did go, I think I was actually doing some filming there for one of the panels. I think that was the last time I was there.
What a flex.
Yeah, right? Just as a
You opened
reminder...
that sentence by saying that I don't know much about it, and then you're like, oh yeah, no, I've worked it.
Yeah, not a big deal. That's, I'm quite fortunate, although I haven't done much of it in a while. I'm quite fortunate that I've been given cool little opportunities for stuff that hasn't really added to my CV per se, but has just added to my life experience. That's a really lame way of putting that. I enjoyed that. It's a bit gross. So there will be artists, and I assume there'll be panels as well, and it will just be a cool little hub for, I'm just going to say, people like us.
People like us, yeah. And it's good for... So it's put together, as far as I'm aware, by the folks over at Close Encounters, which is our kind of local comic book shop.
Shout out
to Close Encounters, because that shop is awesome, and the people that work there are lovely. Mm-hmm. Our good friend, the aforementioned Jimmy, who again I'm sure you'll meet.
I want to turn Jimmy into like this legend of the podcast. Like, he's the return of Jim.
Yeah, he's our mascot.
Yeah.
Yeah, our good friend Jimmy, I think he worked there for a time, and he still kind of helps out. And a guy I used to work with called Sean, who's lovely. And it's just a great shop. And I think they've got a bunch of locations. I think there may be 2 or 3. And either way, it's independently run. It's not some big kind of commercial entity. And that shop just seems to have the worst luck. Yeah. And it just sucks, because it's such a social hub for this kind of... this small community that's just so passionate, and to just see them just constantly like jumping hurdles is just heartbreaking. So it's kind of nice for them to have this big blowout kind of convention and be a part of it and be involved, and just have loads of people just come down and get involved and just be a big kind of community. It's awesome. Yeah,
I think that's it. It's just like it's the party of the year. It's everyone get together and just kind of in many ways it's a celebration of this little community they've put together. I think that's awesome. And also it's nice as well because it brings in people from far and wide. You have your there's some conventions that run a couple of times through the year that are like the big flagship ones, a lot of them sharing the same name, which is great, and I love those. Like, I will not detract from that at all. I absolutely love going to like these ridiculous multi like hangar conventions, but I feel like a convention like NICE has got a lot of heart, and that kind of means a lot, especially in that kind of community. Like, I use the phrase geek culture because it's very difficult to encompass everything, because when you start talking about comic books and manga and these different like really deep fandoms that some people are deeply into. I'm using the word deep too much, but say take Doctor Who. Doctor Who is something that has such a passionate fan base, but is encompassed within this sort of convention community, and there is no direct link between, say, a BBC produced live action show and anime, but yet these sort of conventions bring it all together. It's a certain type of people who look like me, basically. That's how I see it anyway. So yeah, I think it's gonna be really cool. We're going to go to the thing. Yeah,
100%. It's the 7th and 8th of September. And I think one of the cool things is, and I promise this isn't a sponsored bit, they've not asked us to say this.
Ad.
Yeah, is there, what you tend to find at these big kind of commercial comic book conventions and these kind of cons is, like, you kind of have to queue and you have to pay to meet these people that really are no different from you or I. Like, someone who's been on a film set, or someone who's been on a television set, or someone who's drawn a comic book, or worn a costume, like, they're not better than you in any way. And the idea of kind of having to pay these extortionate amounts of money, I'd imagine for passionate fans, can be quite heartbreaking. So I think one of NICE's kind of selling points is that they don't charge. There are no charges for autographs, so you can meet these artists that may well have changed your life, may well have played this huge part in kind of changing who you are and kind of shaping who you are, and you can just kind of meet them just the same way you would meet anyone, and that's awesome, and that's the way it should be. And I've got my own kind of opinions on people who charge for meet and greets and the VIP element. And
we've talked too much about music.
Yeah, but in general, the idea of it costing you money for someone to scribble some ink on a bit of paper is I'd imagine probably quite gutting. If you finally get to meet your hero and you're just kind of a paycheck. I'd imagine it probably sucks.
Yeah, I think that takes a lot out of it as well. When it is the case that it's not just, I love your works, thank you so much, can I get your autograph? Yes. When it goes into, I love your work, thank you so much, can I get your autograph? That'll be a tenner. There's something about that exchange that just feels a bit disingenuous, I think. Yeah. Again, I appreciate the fact that for a lot of people, it's the same thing with bands and t-shirts. It's the case that actually the income, the main revenue stream, the thing that allows you to continue to do it, might not be the main piece of work. I get that, and it's just a fact of some industries. But at the same time, it's just kind of cool that you can just hang out on like a real level.
Yeah, and I think that makes fans for life as well. You meet someone kind of on the other side of a table that you've paid 30-40 quid for, queued in the rain for 2 hours, and you get to shake a hand and take a picture with some bodyguard looming over you, and then that's it, and that's your interaction. Well, that doesn't really invest it. Whereas if you get to just stand and have a conversation with someone you're passionate about, then you're hooked for life. And I think you and I, briefly going back to bands, when we've been lucky enough to kind of meet bands who are really cool people, that is it. You are in it for life because there's that personal investment. Yeah. And yeah, I get it. I'm sure Mark Hamill can't just wander into Comic-Con and just start shaking hands. Yeah. Same with Tom Baker, David Tennant.
We get it. People who play the Dr. John.
Sci-fi. Yeah. And in music as well, you couldn't have Gene Simmons or fucking, I don't know, John Bon Jovi, for instance. Probably couldn't just wander to the merch table at the O2 Arena.
Be like, right, John.
Yeah, just start meeting people because it'd just be chaos. So I get, sometimes it does cost, £200-300 for those kind of VIP experiences.
Yeah.
And at a top level in any kind of medium, I do understand that. But I feel like kind of the underground is sort of where it lives. And these passionate kind of fandoms are what keeps any scene, any medium alive.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you can kind of connect on a genuine level, then you've got those fans for life, and you will be able to turn that around commercially in another way that's not, as I say, selling ink on a bit of paper.
Yeah, I've got a couple of personal experiences on that. So I'm gonna say one kind of nasty thing about a big band, and then I'm gonna say one kind of nasty thing about a littler band. But I don't want to fuck with the littler band because I don't want it to be the case that my experience impedes your experience of their music. So I'm gonna name the bigger bands. I'm not gonna name the little band. I'm gonna start with Ollie Sykes is a really fucking nice guy. That caught me all the way off guard, especially considering he peed on. Allegedly peed on a lady.
Oh my God.
I think a really sort of big part of my buy into Bring Me the Horizon has been my interactions with the band. They've been great every time, and there's been a lot of them. It just shows the fact that they've been accessible for a large part of their career. I've met the guys in that band so many fucking times, and they're always so nice. So that's one.
I stood next to Jordan, their keyboardist, at Alexander Palace the whole way through the Architect set.
Yeah.
He was just there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so was Josh from You Me at 6.
Yeah.
There you go, claim to fame.
Cool. And I had this experience that could have gone either way with A Day to Remember, and I love it's one of my favourite memories. It's fucking crazy. It was just the case that the whole band had left whatever venue they were playing. It was before they started. And I'd sort of yelled from a distance at Jeremy. I was like, Jeremy, will you sign my ticket? And I just get back a no. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. He takes 3 or 4 paces, sort of turns back, and it's like, dude, sorry, do you want me to sign the ticket? I'm like, yeah, if that's okay. And he wanders like this is a long walk, and he just walks and walks and walks. I'm standing there really nervously with my ticket, and he's walking towards me, and I have no idea what he's about to say. He comes like right in front of me and goes, "Dude, I'm so sorry. I thought you were trying to sell me a ticket to my own show." Like, honestly, my heart melted. He signed the ticket. I said thank you. He said thank you for coming. I will forever love A Day to Remember. That interaction could have gone either way. I fucking love that band. Jeremy's super nice. Oh my god. But we also, me and I think with my friend Amy, went to go and to a meet and greet signing for Devil Wears Prada. And I was a huge Devil Wears Prada fan. That primes what I'm about to say. We queued for fucking ages in a van store, and we got there, and I mean we queued for fucking ages, and it was the case that it was just ink on paper passed from one dude to the next dude to the next dude. Didn't even fucking look up. It wasn't even the case that we got eye contact from any member of that band. And I appreciate the fact that as long as we were queuing, they were also there and they were having to sign stuff, but they didn't give a shit at all. And I don't want it to be the case that those kind of interactions inform my opinion of their music. But I'm super done with A Day to Remember. I love A Day to Remember. The Devil Wears Prada. I'm just so fucking done with them. I actually, less than a week ago, that thing that they signed was a big poster. I just binned it. I was just genuinely, I was just done. So yeah. The types of interactions you have with artists really does create or destroy your buy-in.
Yeah, 100%. I remember being at Bloodstock Festival in either 2010, 2011, and I watched Devin Townsend, and I wouldn't consider myself the biggest Devin Townsend fan in the world. I prefer his heavier stuff to his more progressive stuff, but I do like him as a musician, and I was really happy to see that show, and then he was at the signing tent, and the queue was massive, and I think at that Bloodstock in particular, each artist got 30 minutes and then had to be cleared out because the other artist was coming in. It was kind of, people fly in and fly out at festivals, you can't really fuck around with timing. And of course we were at the back of the queue, and timing was up, and he had to kind of leave. But to leave, he had to walk past the fans, and he stopped and signed every single person's autograph, shook hands, took photos, met everyone. I got the most genuine thank you for queuing. And the signing was over. The other band were settling down in the signing tent as he was walking along the queue. Yep. And he didn't have to. The guy's a rock star. He could have gone. He could have just disappeared and be like, "I'm really sorry," but he didn't. And I will always remember. Everyone knows that Devin Townsend's a really nice dude. It's just he's just one of those people. But yeah, it just meant a lot that he wasn't like, "Oh well, my 30 minutes is up. Now I'm just going to go put my feet up and chug a beer." It was like, I'm going to meet the rest of this 100 people that are queuing. Yeah. And again, Cannibal Corpse, probably wouldn't think it, but the signing tent again, I think it was the year after at Bloodstock, was packed. We got right to the front, and the security guy was like, "I'm really sorry, they've got, this is it." So they got up from the table, left the tent, and came out to the barrier and met everyone. And again, I got the most genuine thank you for queuing and for waiting. I'm sorry we couldn't meet you properly. Yeah. I was like, well, I'm always going to think they're nice dudes. Even if, I haven't listened to that band in years, but I will always have a positive memory of them. Yeah. Even if their albums are slightly less than family friendly.
Yes.
Only a little bit.
Yeah. I think, that whole thing creates a lot of pressure for artists, especially, you take your Justin Biebers of the world and they're just about ready to crack because every single fan interaction of the billions that they have is this potentially high impact scenario. So I appreciate there's two sides to it all, but again, these interactions can mean everything, and we're well over time, so I want to wrap it up soon. But I was just thinking about it, and I just wanted to get just whatever springs to his mind first about your favourite enemies. Is it your favourite enemies?
Your favourite enemies, yeah. One of Canada's finest. So, YFE are a band based in Quebec, Canada. And I could talk for hours about them. But a top level view is back in the MySpace days, very back in the MySpace days, I got a message out of the blue from someone from their street team who had obviously taken a look at my profile, my infamous MySpace profile, realised that I was into that kind of music and that
Sorry, I was. Do you remember your handle for?
I do not. I'm sure it was great. Though.
Yeah, I'm sure. I remember your MSN one had bats. That's
yeah, and crosses. I think.
Was it Wild Child? I feel like it was
Wild Child. It was Wild Child on MSN. I don't know if it was on MySpace.
Okay, I'll let you continue your story.
Either way, I was one edgelord. And yeah, this person from their UK street team kind of reached out and just started a conversation, not about the band, just about me. Just wanted to make friends. I was like, cool, and we started talking. And then I checked the band out, and I was like, these guys are awesome, like really good. Like I've never really heard anything about this before. And they were super underground at the time. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I think I bought their like EP. It was like, I don't know, like a $5, and it came like a little cardboard like slip. It wasn't like a big fancy album. And it came with 3 handwritten post-it notes, which I still have like 11 years later, thanking me, asking how I was, like just little things where they'd clearly done their research about me as a fan that they probably were never going to meet. And just a really just nice personalised thank you message from 3 of them. And I am still friends with all of those guys to this day. I've got pictures on my Facebook and my Instagram of me drinking coffee with them in Starbucks, just hanging out. Like I've seen them so many times. We email back and forth, and their relationship with their fans is the entire thing. It's not just about the music; it's about them as people. And as I say, I could talk for hours about that band because they're just so good. And if you're into kind of alternative rock, indie rock, kind of post-rock, shoegaze, that kind of thing, check them out. Their music's amazing. Their lyrics are very, very kind of personal. Their spokespeople for Amnesty International, they're just a great band. But the reason I was invested is because of that friendship, not because I probably... Not to put the music down, but I probably wouldn't have taken much notice if I just heard them on the radio, because at the time it wasn't my kind of sound. But now I have a friendship with a band that I'm invested in forever, and every single time they've come to the UK, I think they've been to the UK twice since we started talking, and I think I've been to 3 shows on both tours. So that's like six times I've been to see them. Yeah. And yeah, they're just great people, and I think that says a lot. And now they've got a fan for life because they weren't rock star dickheads. They were just great people. Yeah. And I feel like if any of you are artists out there, definitely like people invest more in the person than they do in the art. Like no matter how good your product is, your product could be mediocre, but if you are a great person, if you are worth investing time in, then that's it. Yeah.
I primed it earlier to say that I was going to talk about a band on a more local level and chat some shit, but I don't think we need that. I think that's a really nice place to put it. Sort of, it's just that awareness of like your actions have consequences.
Thanks, Dad.
But like your interactions with people can mean a lot. Like you don't have to be in a band, you don't have to be high level. Just if someone's having a shit day and you're a dickhead, you're going to make their day worse. You don't know where they're at. But also, if you actually have time for people and if you're decent, then you can make a positive impact. Not just like on your record sales, but I guess on, life on this planet. That's pretty cool. That's something to strive for, I suppose. So, yeah.
That's a pretty strong sign-off point.
Yeah, I think so. We are so over time. So, I think we can wrap it here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening for another week.
Next weekend is Nice Convention. Don't miss out.
Yeah, boy. Bedford. Nice. Google it. Yeah. I've been Mike.
I haven't been Mike this time.
We're making progress. One of these days, we're going to get there. We've been Animus.
We have been Animus.
We have been talking. Thank you for listening.
Peace.